All right, we are back with episode 112 of the Let's Go podcast. Coming off an amazing episode with the tremendous, awesome Dovey Newberger, who rocked it, and we had a really good time with him. Just check it out if you haven't seen that yet. You will not regret it. It was funny. It was chill. It was awesome. Like I said, we really appreciate him taking the time. And thank him for everything, for the hour plus that he came on the pod. Currently making its way to our most viewed podcast. We'll see if it gets there. Anyways, we are back, episode 112, and we are here for week 4 of the Twillory tournament power rankings. We had a very interesting week this past week of games. Every team in action, many doubleheaders. Let's get right to it. We'll also have our basketball power rankings coming out shortly as well. But let's start with the Twillory Week 4 power rankings. I took a couple of shots from players during the week about what spot their teams were in and how they felt, they should be in different spots. So let's see how they feel after this week. Coming in at number 10, I think this is a no-brainer. And I was driving home in the car with somebody, and I was telling them how I feel terrible for people who are on this team because the point of the tournament is for people to feel a sense of competition. When you have a draft, most teams should be competitive. This team hasn't been competitive. They've been getting blown out and blown out and blown out. They took another tough loss on Tuesday. They lost to Ceramian Financial 13-3, and this team is Twillory. What a shame. The sponsor of our tournament, Twillory, which we all know and love so dearly, now 0-3, continuing to get blown out. I don't know what to say. They don't have an outfield. Jack Ross, I think, is, maybe I think they have 2 outfielders. That kid, Jonas Lowinger recruited, and they ended up trading him to Ceramian. I'm forgetting his name, to Twillory. I'm sorry. They don't really have another out. They don't have any other. They have 2 outfielders, and the other outfielders are okay, but it's tough. And then Asaf's a good pitcher. He didn't show up one game. Menachem Dicker didn't show up for a couple of the games. He's the captain. I'm sure he had good reason for it, not to show up. But it just a blank show. We don't. I'm not a big cursing guy, but that's what I would say if I from what I've seen out of Twillory. And listen, they're 0-3. They have 2 games left next week, and everyone makes the dance, so you never know. But for now, Twillory comes in at 10 in the power rankings. Coming in at number 9 is Crush. And although I have been very tough on Crush, I have been crushing Crush, pun intended. I sort of predicted this. I don't know how much more I could take credit and continue taking credit. Crush is not going to put up a lot of runs. They have a solid pitcher in Cass and Yankee also to back them up. They have a couple of stars in their team, but they're not a deep team. They're not nearly as deep as a lot of the other teams in the tournament, and I think it's really starting to expose them. They got off to another early lead this past week, and then quickly fell behind, and then just got absolutely demolished, 18-4 to Wall Street Grill. Matt Rosenberg, we'll get to in a second, totally dominating, but they don't look good. They don't look good. They look very in the field. They're decent in the outfield. They only play 3 in the outfield, which could hurt them. Soli hasn't been hitting, self-admittingly. JoJo has been hitting, although didn't really hit that well his past game. And Cass has been a little bit more wild than we're used to seeing him. So a combination of that, together with them not being a strict deep team, now 0-3. Also, 2 games next week. They have a chance. Everyone makes the dance. We'll see what happens. But for now, they're the number 9 in the power rankings. Coming in at number 8 in the power rankings is Wall Street Grill. That's a bit of a hot take. Wall Street Grill did have a very impressive win this past week. They also had a very devastating loss. So let's get into that. Wall Street Grill played 2 games. In game number 1, Wall Street Grill blew a 3-run lead to Holy Schnitzel. A couple of chirping from the Wall Street Grill players in that last inning. I won't mention names. But we're 8 in the power rankings. They're about to beat Holy Schnitzel, who's one of the top teams, 2-0. 2-1 at the time, and they blew it. They gave up a bunch of runs in the last inning, ended up losing an extras, another walk-off for Holy Schnitzel, which we'll get into. Again, Matt Rosenberg is dominant out there. He is a once-in-a-lifetime player. He's absolutely amazing, and they have a good supporting cast around him. However, I just don't think they're deep enough. Their outfield, Matt Rosenberg, is great. Their infield is decent. They're solid. Nothing crazy. We look a little bit into the stat line for Wall Street Grill here. Abitan had a good game. He's actually been playing pretty well. Tom Prager had a good game in that game 1, but if you look through the stat line, and this is a pretty shocking stat in the game they blew. They had 6 hits It came from 4 players. So 6 of their 10 players didn't get a hit all game. Their top 3 in the order: 2 for 3 for Avitan, 1 for 2 for Matt Rosenberg, 2 for 4 for Schoenprager, and then Lowinger in the bottom of the order had 1 hit. Everyone else, 0. You ain't gonna win that way. Their outfit's very good. You know, Greenberg, Prager, and Matt, but infield's Ellie Dax made his debut, didn't get a hit in game 1. Looking to game 2, it was a totally different story. Wall Street Girl absolutely dominated, demolished, and crushed. They had 14 hits on the day. Abitan, by the way, great game, 4 for 6 in the day. Matt Rosenberg, of course, that was the Matt Rosenberg show that game. He went 2 for 3. He had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. They have a really tough middle of the order, much tougher than most teams. With Abitan leading off, Matt Rosenberg, Prayer, Yakov Goldstein, Malcolm Greenberg, Ellie Dax, Dovey Schwartz, Jeremy Tabak, who's been ranking. They have a lot of hitters. They probably have one of the top 3 deepest lineups in the league. With that being said, they did play a team of Crush who has been getting demolished, who just doesn't have such a great team. I shouldn't say getting demolished. The first 2 games, they actually kept it very close. They lost a heartbreaker and they lost another close game. But doesn't seem like Crush has what they need. If you look into Crush quickly, they've played 3 games so far. They've scored 10 runs, 3-3 and 4. They lost 5-3, 4-3, and 18-4. So they're not really putting up runs in a league where they should be putting up runs. And they're also in a division that's much weaker from a pitching perspective. The way the divisions are made randomly, but the way it was made, one division has Pollen and Koenig and Kaufman, and the other division just has Ash, if I'm not mistaken. So, they're very impressive big win, but overall 1-2 need to see a little bit more. Need to see a little bit more out of them. Shout out to Viblisco, pitched a very nice game 2, until Crush walked up the field in the 4th inning. But for now, there will be 8 in the power rankings. Coming in at 7 in your Week 4 power rankings is MS Motors. Now, MS Motors, Daniel Ash made his debut this past week, pitched 2 games. Daniel Ash is great pitcher. He's not inhuman. And just like any other pitcher, when your field's not producing behind you, you're going to give up runs. Now, Daniel did get knocked around in the first inning of game 1. They played 2 games. They split. Shmuel also had a big hit. He gave 3, I think, legit runs. But overall, there was really a lot of sloppy play behind Mr. Daniel Ash this past week. They played 2 games, like I said. They lost game 1, heartbreaker, 11-7. It was a back-and-forth game. Gordon Companies pulled away. In game 2, they won what really is a must-win game for them, 4-3 over a tough Holy Schnitzel team. Let's quickly look through game stats for both these games. In game 1, you had Yehuda Nenner going 1 for 3. Davidowitz, great player, and Erickson Flores. So again, similar to a couple other teams here, you had the top 3 hitters in the order combining for 5 of the 7 hits. And from hitting 4 through 10, 2 hits. That's not going to win games. They happened to score 7 runs. I'm not exactly sure how they did it. Well, I know how they did it. I'm looking at the lineup now. 6 of the 7 RBIs also came from the top 3 in the order. So big shout out, Yehuda Nenner, Menachem Davidowitz, and Erickson Flores. You guys apparently carried your team offensively. I'm curious looking to Ash's stat line. 9 hits, 7 walks. You can win a game like that. Yes, 5 errors, but 9 hits and 7 walks. You're losing a game no matter how many errors are behind you. We look into game 2. I think that was more of the Daniel Ash we're used to seeing. Again, Ash hates playing in the cold, hates pitching in the cold. Maybe that had an effect on things. In game 2, it has Ash for giving up 8 hits. But if you look at his stat line for game 2, you're talking 4 strikeouts and 1 walk. That's going to win games for you. Game 2, again, Flores, Davidowitz, Nenner. 5 hits. They responsible for 2 of the 4 RBIs. Viggy Ben Hayem had 2 big hits and 2 RBIs as well. But top of the order, I guess, is working. It's clicking. Over's making that lineup over there. Whether it's Gershon Brookler, whether it's Yehuda Nenner, it's working. They're producing. So if you have Daniel Ash on your game and the top of your order hitting, you never know. But for now, they are in the 7 in the power rankings. Coming in at number 6 in the power rankings is Holy Schnitzel. It's a little bit of a controversial one because Holy Schnitzel finishing at 3-2, arguably could finish higher in the power rankings. Like we just said, they lost at MS Motors in the second half of their back-to-back. Both their losses on the tournament, they're finished now at 3-2, but coming on back-to-backs. We'll look through that game once we're here already. Jakey Goldenberg, 2 for 3, had a nice game. Hitting really spread out the line, which is good. Adam Bromberg got a hit. Geitzel had a hit. Ziegelbaum had a hit. Wildstein had a hit. Slamowitz, Ellie Weiss. So, hitting spread out. Ari Slamowitz did have a decent game. 12 hits, a lot of hits, but 4 runs, 2 strikeouts, no walks. As a defensive team, all you could ask from a pitcher really is no walks. And, we know what Ash did. It was a tight game. It was back and forth. And, again, maybe it's the second half of doubleheaders. Holy Schnitzels are going to have to adjust, as in the playoffs, they're going to have to play the second half of the doubleheader, whether it's in the semis, whether it's in the championship. But look back at their first game, and it was a very, very impressive win over Wall Street Grill. They were down by 3. They fought, they clawed, they came back, scored 3 in the 7th to tie it, and they walked off in the 8th. Shout out Adam Bromberg, got a couple of amazing throws to save runs at home. Funny enough, you look at the lineup for Holy Schnitzel. They only had 8 hits and 8 runs, which means there had to have been a lot of errors, and there were 6 errors for Wall Street Grill. Poor Craig Stroh. 6 errors for Wall Street Grill, a very dysfunctional defense, part of which they're still remaining 8 in the power rankings. Not a lot of hitting. The top of the order, the top 4 hitters, only 2 hits combined, but they did get the win 8-7, and they are currently going to be in the 6 in the power rankings. Coming in at 5, we got Extreme Vent Cleaning. They finished their season at 2-3. But let me tell you something about Extreme Vent Cleaning. They played this past week. Without a couple of their studs, without Hilla Rokach. Don't want to forget anyone here, so let me pull it up quickly. They played without Hilla Rokach. They played without Alan Feldberg. They played without Yaakov Sabo for game 2, without Pfeiffer. And they're playing in a tough division against tough pitchers. Kaufman and Pollen. And Koenig has been an all-star. He's been a Cy Young all-star caliber. It's unbelievable what he's doing. And, let's quickly go through his games from this past week. Game 1, very, very tough game for Extreme Vent Cleaning. They won 6-5. It's a tough battle against Bravo Kosher Pizza. Bravo Kosher Pizza is a tough team. Jonas Lundgren knows what he's doing. Nutty Arbach was there, phenomenal hitter. You look at Koenig's stat line: 7 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, only 2 of them earned, 3 walks, 7 Ks. I think it was more like 9 or 10 Ks. Might have been a mistake on the stat keeper's end. Absolute dominance from Koenig. Not a lot of hitting. It's actually the bottom of the order that carried them. 1 through 5 in the lineup had 1 hit. 6 through 10 in the lineup had 2, 3, 5, 7, 9 hits. They went 9 for 14. So shout out to you, Moshe Abramson, Kirshner, Fagan, Fine, Droslowitz. You guys carried your team offensively that first game, so big props to you guys. You guys really, carried your team on the offensive side. And, of course, a team that never gave in. They came back. They're down a couple of runs late. They tied it, and ultimately they won in extra innings, defeating Bravo Kosher Pizza. Game 2, against anyone in the world, they win the game. The Sheriff is unbelievable. He was more unbelievable than Yuta Koenig was, which is hard to say when you have a pitcher going 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 2 Ks. The run wasn't even earned. Just Kaufman shut them down. They had 2 hits. Fagan had a hit and Koenig had a hit. And that was it. So you're losing 1-0. It's a tough loss. Extreme Vent Cleaning, again, this is without Rokach, it's without a couple other stars that you mentioned, finishing the season at 2-3. And they will finish in the 5 in the power rankings, at least for now. We'll see if anything changes next week. Coming in at 4, we got Prime Cuts. Prime Cuts was handed their first loss of the season this past week. Prime Cuts has still blown me away overall. I thought they would finish on the bottom of the tournament. They won their first 2 games, and they played another tough game against, again, a tough team in Bravo Kosher Pizza. They lost 4-3. A lot of runs scored early after the top of the third. There was nothing across on either side. Nachum Mintz has been pitching tremendously this tournament. It's been very under the radar because all the big names. Nachum Mintz has really dominated. He went 7 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, only 1 earned. A lot of unhealthy help behind him, a lot of big errors for Nachum Mintz. His defense, 3 errors, and 2 of them cost him a lot of runs. We look at the hitting, again, a very deep lineup. David Bloom, Yitzi Miller, Mikey Reinhardt, Morty Kindorf, Ezzy Unger, Yaakov Weiss, Wach, Frankel, everyone on that team could hit. it's a really impressive. But again, it was the bottom of the order really that scored the runs. The top of the order only went 2 for 13. The bottom of the order went 4 for 12. So it was really the bottom of the order that helped them. Nachman's had a late pinch hit appearance to try to tie the game, and Steve Pollen shut it down. They did get handed their first loss. They go to 2-1, and they are in 4 in the power rankings. Coming in at number 3, and now I believe these top 3 teams are in a different stratosphere, in my opinion, the other 7, as of now at least. We'll see if things change. It's my belief. Bravo Kosher Pizza. Now, I did have them at 2 coming in, so they did drop a little bit. They did lose game 1, as we discussed, 6-5. They blew that lead. A lot of mistakes in the field. They had 4 errors behind Steve Pollen. Steve wasn't too happy about that. They did get a lot of production from the middle of the order. Shout out to Steve Pollen going 3 for 3, a true cleanup hitter. That's the reason why they put you there, Steve. Nutty Auerbach went 2 for 3. Jonas Longer 1 for 3. But guess what? When you have your 2, 3, and 4 hitters being the only ones to get a hit all game, you ain't going to win. It's crazy. They went 6 for 11, the 2, 3, and 4 hitters. You know what everyone else in the lineup went? 3, 5, 8, 11, 13, 16, 19. 0 for, dude, Jonason. Come on, talk to your team. When you have a lineup that goes 0 for 21 outside your 2, 3, and 4 hitters, I don't know if you're ever going to win. The fact they scored 5 runs is ridiculous. Like we did mention in the first inning of that. Oh, we didn't mention it yet, but in the first inning of that game, there was a fly ball to the outfield that was dropped. Scored 3 runs for Bravo Kosher Pizza. But yeah, you're not going to win. So they took a tough loss. They blew it late. And then game number 2, they cleaned it up. We just mentioned literally a second ago. They beat Prime Cuts 4-3. It was a very impressive win, a very impressive pitching performance from Steve Pollen. Steve Pollen finished 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. It's not very impressive. Solid performance. Jonas Longer went 2 for 3 that game. He had the most hits on his team. More spread out hitting that game. He had 1 hit from Scheinbein, a hit from Walkenstein, a hit from Pollen, a hit from Nutty, 2 hits from Longer, 1 from Jaffe. So definitely more spread out. Also, not a lot of the RBIs came from Ephraim Slomowitz. Had 2 RBIs in the bottom of the order. Walkenstein had an RBI. So definitely a lot more production overall. And Bravo Kosher Pizza, in my opinion, is still the championship favorite, although they are in 3 in the power rankings. Come playoff time, I trust Jonason. He's a winner, and we'll see how this plays out. Coming in at 2 in the power rankings, you got Gordon Companies. Gordon Companies have been the most quiet 3-0 team, and I'll tell you why. They've been blowing everybody out and putting up a crazy amount of runs. Gordon Companies won 11-7 over MS Motors. They go to 4-0, if I'm not mistaken. Gordon Companies received a tremendous amount of production from everybody in the lineup. Shlomo Ross had a hit. No Aaron had a hit. Adelson had a hit. Blisco had a hit. Zwirin had a hit. Eli Turk had 2 hits. Shai Shavitsky had a hit. Mendy Warsh drew a walk. And Mikey Weiss had a hit. Yitzi Scheinman drew a walk. So everybody had an RBI. Mikey Weiss had an RBI. Everyone on the team contributed. Hitting. Deep lineup. Great outfield. They give up 7 runs, which they haven't really done much. Let's see how many errors they had in the field. 5 errors. Very uncharacteristically of them. But they did win big 11-7. They are now, again, I think they're 4-0. Let's see if we can quickly go through the standings here. 3-0. They have 2 games next week, unless it wasn't updated here. No, I think it was. They're 3-0. Okay. 3-0. Currently in first place overall. But we have to obviously break it down by division. They're at first place in their division as well. So coming in at 3-0 is Gordon Companies, number 3 in the power rankings. Coming in at number 2 in the power rankings. And coming in at number 1 in the power rankings, Ceremian Financial. Glenn Zuckerman, Sam Miller, they did a lot of research, a lot of prep, and it really paid off. They just look really, 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 really good. The Sheriff, as you just mentioned, pitched 2 unbelievable games. Him and Koenig are fighting it out for Player of the Week, which will be revealed shortly who won it. Also 3-0. Ceremian Financial, dominant win over Twillory, 13-3. If we look through their quick stat line, again, deep lineup. Rave had a hit. Miller 2 hits. Zinn subbing a hit. Glenn Zuckerman 2 hits. Weissman 2 hits. Ari Moskovic 2 hits. Keith Rosenstock a hit. The Sheriff had a hit. Avi Krohn had a hit. Only Franco and Silver on the bottom there didn't have hits, but they both scored runs. So just total dominance. And of course, Jesse Kaufman pitching a gem, 6 innings, 6 hits, a walk and 2 strikeouts. 13-3 win over Twillory. And then in game 2, This was the game of the year, pitching-wise, from the Sheriff. The best game I think any pitcher has pitched so far in this Twillory tournament. 1-0, the Sheriff, 7 innings, 2 hits, no walks, and 4 Ks, total dominance. Who had the RBI? David Weissman had the lone RBI for Saramin Financial, giving them the win. Saramin Financial also only with 5 hits. So both pitchers were dominant that game, Conan and Kaufman, and Saramin Financial got the win. What I see from Saramin is that their defense is good enough. Their outfield is a little shaky. They don't have a true outfield. They have 2, maybe 3 outfielders. So let's see how that works out in the playoffs. But they have a really, really good infield. They have a very, very deep hitting team, and they have, in my opinion, the best pitcher in the Twillory tournament in Yossi Kaufman on their team. And they have great leadership. Glenn Zuckerman's a leader. He huddles his team after every game. It's really, really nice to see. And for that reason, coming in at 3-0, they get 1 in the power ranking. So we can't wait to be back next week. It's the last week. Who will take home the Holy Schnitzel Division Champion? Who will take home the Bravo Kosher Pizza Division Championship? Actually, let's go through it right now. Let's look at the individual divisions. First of all, let's give a shout out to Holy Schnitzel and Bravo Kosher Pizza, who are sponsoring our divisions. The winner of each division will get gift cards to each restaurant, and then of course, the winner of the championship gets $1,000 to Wall Street Grill. So those are 3, added shout outs to the addition to team sponsors. So let's look through the schedule here. Let's go into the standings to break down quickly the division standings before we move on. In the Holy Schnitzel division, we got Gordon Companies at 3-0. And unless they lose both this coming week, they clinch the Holy Schnitzel division. Holy Schnitzel himself, 3-2. I guess they need Gordon Companies to lose both. But even so, I think Gordon Companies might have beat them. Sorry to do too much research on this. And then you got Wall Street Grill and MS Motors, who still have 2, and who still have 2 more games. So theoretically, if they win both, go to 3-2. Gordon Companies lose both, go to 3-2. I guess there could be ties, so it's still a lot to play for there. Again, Gordon Companies just needs to win 1, and they clinch the division. They win Holy Schnitzel gift cards to everyone on their team. Looking at the Bravo Kosher Pizza division, we got Ceramian Financial. This is a little closer at 3-0. And then we got Bravo Pizza and Prime Cuts at 2-1. Extreme Van Clean at 2-3. So it's really only Bravo Kosher Pizza and Prime Cuts that could wiggle their way into the 1 seed, fighting out for Bravo Kosher Pizza gift cards. So there you go, week 4. Let's see the reaction to this, let's see the response. I think I broke it down pretty well. We'll see you for week 5 power rankings, our final week of the regular season next week. We are excited. After that, we got our tournament. It's all built up for the tournament. So no matter what your record is, no matter how poorly you're playing, no matter how dysfunctional, quote unquote, your franchise is, everyone makes the dance and everyone's got a shot. So thanks for tuning in. This was fun. This was exciting. Sorry for my tired nature here. I had a long night last night with HSL basketball, but we're pumped. We're excited. Stay tuned for your HSL basketball power rankings, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks so much, guys.